So as you can see, the date of this video is August the 10th, 2023. And the reason I show you the date is so I can show you the date on the CBS news clip that I'm going to do for you. Sorry about that. Not very good with camera. I subject you to an earthquake, a fake earthquake. Now you can see this was done about 4 years ago, and it comes from CBS Sunday Morning. So I'm going to put it on full screen and we're going to talk about this. So I beg your pardon for all of my non-professional ways with the camera. I know many people have lots more, a lot of nicer videos than the ones I produce, with smooth editing and little gadgets inserted, things like that. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just concerned about conveying truth. Now this is about nuclear blast preserved on film. So we're doing a series on the weaponization of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In other words, those two hoaxes have been weaponized so that the world lives in fear and terror of what was created by those two hoaxes. So we're going to join this CBS special news clip about 4 years ago, and we're just going to start looking at the symbolism. It is surrounded by the one eye symbolism. Just to start off with, you can see the one eye right there over to the left, and then there's more one eye. There's one right here. Then there's another one over here. And most likely, the one who's dressed in a dress with lipstick on, most likely, I'm not going to try to prove it, but most likely, that's a man. That's the way they do things, alright? So let's join in on the...
Sometimes the noise of news reporting can numb the significance of a story. For example, the ongoing talks with North Korea over its nuclear arsenal. The fury and force of a nuclear bomb, something we all hope we'll never experience, truly has to be seen to be believed. Which brings us to this report from David Martin.
Now let's talk about that for just a minute. Has to be seen to be believed. Now, the only thing that people can say is, I have watched some films. I have watched some films. And I remember when Dave J was very popular and doing a lot to help all of us. He was on the channel of a guy who attended military historical school and saw himself as an expert in military this and military that. And Dave started talking about nuclear bombs, and Dave was trying to tell him it was all fake. He says, "But Dave, I've seen the mushroom cloud." Dave said, "You saw nothing." Of course, the man couldn't wait to get Dave off the show because he was worried about Dave's mental health. Now, I'm going to say the same thing. When you're watching film, you saw nothing. You saw an illusion. Now, I use a phrase, an illusion that creates a delusion. In other words, you walk around with the delusion that nuclear weapons exist and that they can be the destroyer of worlds, as Oppenheimer said. By the way, I ID'd Oppenheimer a while back. I'll do a video on him. It's just the actor, Robert Young, I believe. So anyhow, when you watch film, you watch nothing.
Miles back, observers from all services and several allied nations stand by for the first daylight tower shot.
The terrible swift power of nuclear weapons has to be seen to be believed.
This is a really big fireball. It'll be about 2 miles across.
Now, thanks to a project headed by Greg Spriggs at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California, the public can see them as never before.
It's unclassified. It's not a threat to national security.
Starting in 1945, the U.S. conducted 210 nuclear tests above ground, all of them recorded on film from as many angles as possible.
I now declare that the United States...
So if they're so dangerous and so powerful, then what are those dudes standing there with a camera? Now always ask that question whenever they show you some fantastic disaster and say, okay, I am the cameraman. I am the camera woman. And I'm standing right next to this thing. Now come on. If it really was like they insist, why would they be standing there with a camera? Now we're going to hear about another hoaxer here, which is JFK. It was just an actor, signs a treaty. We're not going to do any more testing because it's so dangerous. Well, that's all part of the illusion that everything is so dangerous that everybody could be incinerated in seconds. Okay? So you get your big people with so-called credibility to sign a treaty.
does not propose to conduct nuclear tests in the atmosphere so long as other states do not do so.
That ended in 1963 when, for the good of the planet, the U.S. and the Soviet Union agreed to stop
Okay, now I identified him, Khrushchev. You can check my channel, Who is Who in Hoaxology. This is the author, Eric Hoffer. Eric Hoffer played Khrushchev. They're all just actors and puppets on a stage. I know, you want to believe the United States was in tension with Soviet Union or Russia. You want to believe in what they call a Cold War. No way, it was a warm friendship between the United States and Russia. It was drama, tension on film and in print. They were actors, and that's Eric Hoffer, the author. Just like the first one to play Castro was, believe it or not, Ernest Hemingway. He was the first one to play Castro.
testing in the atmosphere.
Let's play this in fast motion, and you can see that mock stem crawling up.
Unlike most of us, Spriggs understands the physics that produces these spectacular images.
Oh, unlike most of us. In other words, the way they do this is they come up with their experts. And they know everything. And I'm going to say it real simple. You know nothing. So you better listen to these experts. And by the way, if you're watching this and you don't notice that you're constantly being watched by the sun god. The Egyptian version is Ra, R-A. And I have a channel called War Backwards is Ra, R-A. That was my first channel, and it's got quite a bit of support. I'm surprised. And by the way, let me just say a word of thanks to anyone who does subscribe, and if anyone leaves a comment that really blesses me. But I am not monetized. I do not want money for anything. I want the satisfaction of knowing that my work has opened your eyes. And you will not be under the power of the sun god or Hypnos. So anyhow, they're going to go on with this gibberish about the atomic explosions and the images. Notice, look what it says. That produces these spectacular images. Now, I recently did some work on the book Public Opinion, published in 1922 by Walter Lippmann. And Walter Lippmann will tell the world in 1922 that the way our brain functions is based on pictures. That we love pictures. And, I might add, the next step of that is we love fantasy world rather than actual reality. Now that's kind of my addition to what I was acquiring from the first chapter of that book called Public Opinion. By the way, I do have a PowerPoint presentation on that on 2 of my channels. If you want to go through chapter 1 with me, it's about a half-an-hour video.
Temperatures can reach anywhere from about 10 million degrees up to about 15 million degrees initially.
Now what they do too, they keep adding to the story, they keep adding to casualties, they keep adding to the temperature that this thing can do. This is a common feature of hoax lie. They will start out with a small number, and as time goes on they will add to that number. Now watch for that pattern, you'll see it. I think right now there's a hoax going on in Hawaii about fires and death tolls and stuff like that. You'll see it. They just add to the death casualties or the intensity of the bomb or whatever. And it's a common feature of what they do because people forget. It's like the fish story. You know, the guy that caught the fish, and when he first tells it, it was 12 inches long, and then next thing you know, it's 16 inches long, next thing you know, it's 18 inches long, the next thing you know, it's 3 feet long. It's what they do. They add to the story as time goes on.
Like degrees Kelvin, very hot, very hot.
At the outer edge of the fireball is a shock wave. But the fireball doesn't vaporize, the shock wave crushes. See those tiny objects in the foreground?
Now watch how hokey this is. You can clearly see those are just toys, models. And then they're going to show you some hokey tank overturned. Just watch how hokey it is.
Those are tanks about to be hit by the shock wave.
Woo! Shockwave! We got a shockwave! Thanks a lot for showing us.
When it first starts off,
Woo! A tank upside down. Now watch, these are very clearly just models that were shot, and most likely they were shot or filmed at Lookout Mountain up above where the Hollywood sign is. It was a secret film laboratory. Nobody really knew about it except the in-crowd, and their capabilities were far better than what was in Hollywood itself.
It's moving at Mach 100.
There it is, just a model, see? Just a toy model, filmed to try to show you that this is what devastation looks like with a nuclear blast.
100 times the speed of sound.
And then there is the mushroom-shaped cloud, which...
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about mushrooms. Now, this hoax of mushroom cloud is built on the other hoax that existed for quite some time, and that is the hoax of volcanoes. The mushroom cloud is just a volcano reversed. Think about it. How the so-called lava comes out of the ground and then comes up into a cloud. Okay, well, they reversed it. You kind of start with the cloud and then it goes in a different direction, upwards.
Climbs into the sky, spewing radiation.
That's directly tied to the nuclear fallout, which was very, very sensitive to the cloud height.
Using a computer to measure the cloud from one blast, Spriggs discovered the original calculations made 50 years ago were off by a full mile.
By the way, the mushroom cloud thing, they showed it more like a regular mushroom there, but originally I believe it was reversed. Again, they don't care that they keep consistent with things. They just do it. And it doesn't matter because all they want to do is put images in your head. And once the images are in there, you can't get them out. So what I try to do, I try to treat it like a nail that's in the wood. And you get a hammer with the claw. And you got to get hold of the head of the nail with the claw of the hammer. And then pull that nail out. Now, so I try to pull out these nails of lies, and it's not easy to do because I'll tell you what, they were in my head for many, many years. All right, so as you watch my videos, please try to realize that I was just like anyone else in this hoax lie system. But by the grace of God, I've been set free, and I can create these videos to help you and to maybe help some others, provided the system lets me help anyone. Because once you get pegged, the computer graphics and the AI and all that attacks you and doesn't allow your videos to get circulated.
Instead of 35,000 feet, it was something like 40,000 feet, and it was because of the way they measured it.
That made him wonder if calculations from all the other blasts were wrong.
Now, if I wanted to, I could take the camera and try to zero in on these things, because a lot of times they embed images, embed demons, and sometimes they'll actually embed numbers in the so-called horrific images. And basically, it's like a signature, like when you sign a check. Okay, it's a signature that we're in charge and we're messing with your head.
As well. It was more than just academic curiosity. Those calculations are used to predict the performance, what Spriggs calls the yield, of today's weapons.
If you measure the shockwave radius and you're off by 1%, you will be off by 5% in the yield.
So Spriggs set out to reanalyze and then release to the public the estimated not...
Okay, so there you go. There's the question. Now, if this thing is so horrific, like they say, and incinerates people instantly, what in the blue blazes are they doing standing there? Okay? Once again, if you could do this, you can just take this so-called cloud here and just start magnifying it and see what you can see. It's a very common thing. They like to embed demons and images in their main image. So there's always a bunch of little images embedded. But what are these people doing? And why don't they have on some kind of a suit to protect them? You see, it's all just hokey. Hokey pokey. Do the hokey pokey.
9,000 rolls of film that had been shot. He found most of them in the archives at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, birthplace of the atom bomb. Untouched for decades, a vast scientific treasure trove left to decay.
I've had a challenge with some cans, just getting the can open.
Okay, now, this dude here is an actor, and I'm going to show you who he is.
I've had a challenge.
Okay? Take a look at the face. Take a look at the face and the hairdo. Alright? So I'm going to show you. I gotta down screen it. And I gotta get up to here. You're looking at Bruce Willis. Take a look at the face over here. Alright? Bruce Willis. They didn't give him a new hairdo or anything. They didn't put anything on him. I caught it right away, people. The so-called archivist is Bruce Willis. Look, it's 100% match. Maybe a little bit on the nose there. Alright.
Challenge with some cans, just getting the can open.
Jim Moy is one of this country's foremost film preservationists. Once entrusted with the Zapruder.
Now there's your clue. He was entrusted with the Zapruder film, which is fake. 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 It was a dummy, and they filmed it several times. It was a pretty nice looking dummy, and so-called Jackie just pulled a little lever and it caused some type of a violent explosion type thing for JFK dummy next to her, actually to him, with Marilyn Monroe playing Jackie. Anyhow.
Film of President Kennedy's assassination, he now has the job of retrieving the only visual record of America's most fearsome weapons.
I want to first, once I open a can, determine the condition of the film, and one way is by smell.
See, it's Bruce Willis.
Because any acetate-based film, as the base that carries the image starts to decay, it will put off an odor, which is called vinegar syndrome.
It smells like vinegar.
It does, exactly.
It sounds like basically it's a race against time.
It really is. Because until those cans are opened, you don't know the condition.
Some of the film has been lost forever, but Moy was able to restore most of it, using a scanner to convert each frame to a digital file.
Here, we're able to analyze all the Fireball films in an automated way.
Digital technology allowed Spriggs to analyze the films with much greater precision.
Those are high-energy X-rays running down the cable and vaporizing the cable.
And he found that the measurements made decades ago over the Pacific Ocean and Nevada desert were inaccurate.
The best they could do in the 50s was on the order about plus or minus 7, maybe 10%. So we're talking maybe plus or minus 100 kilotons for a 1 megaton shot.
A kiloton is an explosion equivalent to 1,000 tons of TNT. 100 kilotons is about 6 times bigger than the bomb which leveled Hiroshima, killing a third of the population.
Now notice they love the 1/3. They love the 1/3. They love the 1/3 because it's 33.33333 on into infinity. I won't get into why exactly they love it so much, but
The Pentagon would not tell us if the new data from the old tests had forced any change in current nuclear targeting plans. But that does not change the impact of simply looking at images like this. Frozen for 1/1,000,000th of a second from 2 miles away, this fireball truly looks like an alien come to devour the Earth. What do you hope the public...
Okay, did you hear what he said? An alien come to devour the Earth. Well, it's not really an alien in that sense. But it's alien in the sense in the Bible, it talks about the strange woman in Proverbs. And what that means is a foreign woman. By foreign it means outside of the covenant, outside of the holiness of God. And the strange woman is anything that pulls people away from a true faith in Almighty God. So in that sense, these are aliens. They are demons working on people's minds, working in their thinking capacities to destroy them, become I am the destroyer of worlds. Stupid quotation from the Bhagavad Gita by Oppenheimer, who was nothing but an actor. And like I told you earlier, I do believe it's Robert Young. I'll do a video on that a little bit later.
gets out of
I
watching.
hope they appreciate just how horrific these weapons are. This is something that can kill millions of people in the blink of an eye.
Spriggs is one of the few nuclear...
Now, did you notice when he said that they didn't want to leave the camera on him too long? Because he was starting to snicker and smile, all right? A lot of times they have a very difficult time presenting hooey-gooey nonsense as truth because they know it's such nonsense, but they have to try to present it in such a way they truly believe it. But the people that are in on the hoaxes don't believe any of it. They laugh it off, that we're so stupid to think there's something that in a blink of an eye can kill 100,000 people and incinerate everything for miles and miles around. It's all a bunch of nonsense.
weapons designers old enough to have actually witnessed a nuclear explosion.
The 1962 weapon effects testing, Operation Fishbowl.
A high-altitude nighttime blast over the Pacific.
The sky lit up like it was noon, no matter what direction you were looking.
Look at him! Now look, see, there's what I'm talking about. He can hardly talk about it without smiling and laughing.
Just lit up, and it took about 15 minutes for all the colors to fade away.
How does the real thing then compare with the film?
It's amazing the difference between what occurred out there and what's on the...
Now notice what he said. How does the real thing, R-E-A-L, compare with the film? The real, R-E-E-L. Now I've used that a lot in my videos to try to show people the contrast between true reality and reality, R-E-E-L-I-T-Y. I create words, by the way. By the way, I think I created a word and coined it. I'm not sure. But I call it hoaxology, the study of hoaxes. That's why I called my channel Who is Who in Hoaxology.
film.
As majestic and fearsome as those photos appear, they don't come close.
Not even close to what you see in real life.
Okay, this is going to conclude the video, and I do want to thank you for watching, and I'm trying to work my way through the whole Hiroshima and Nagasaki and nuclear atomic nonsense. Now, if you want to disagree, that's fine. You want to say you don't provide enough evidence, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. However, no matter what you think of this video or any videos, I want to challenge anyone watching to at least to begin to question anything and everything using some of your own intelligence and logic. And in addition to that, if you're a person of faith, you can use the Holy Scriptures to help you, the Holy Bible. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and there's more to come, so stay tuned and don't touch that dial. Don't change the channel. Thank you. End of video.